And this is my mom, Lori. I went through Interactive Metronome in the senior year of my high school, and I'm glad to say that I have a wonderfully typical IM story. It changed my life. Pre-IM was, I was ADD, was too smart to be identified by a lot of problems, but had too many problems to really make it. And I'm here not because I have a good story, because there are so many good stories around, but where my story has taken me. I have gone from being a struggling child to what many people would probably assume to be a fairly successful career as an occupational therapist.
And we're talking to all these OTs actually.
And really, my mom was the one who got me through my childhood and got me to the point that I could succeed. So she was my frontal lobe throughout my childhood.
Okay, and I'm Lori Schmidt, and I own a business about Interactive Metronome. I've been doing it ever since Brad was little. This story, I'm a little more nervous at this presentation than I am at most of my presentations about IM, because this one is about Brad, me, our family, rather than just about IM and my business. So there's a personal piece here that makes me a little bit more nervous. So that makes it a very special opportunity to be here in front of you all. But it's also a special day for another reason. It's my grandson Ruben's second birthday today. Happy birthday, Ruben. Okay, so I'm going to start out because I have to set the tone of IM. Brad was the middle child in our family. This is a picture of when my daughter Kendra was a senior. Brad was a sophomore, and Paul was, what did I say?
Kendra's Ruben's mom.
Ruben's mom, okay.
Yeah.
And Paul was in 6th grade. Brad, you would think he's the middle child, he's doing awesome, he's a senior in high school when this IM story begins. He had a perfect score on the science ATC, a perfect 36. He had 16 hours of science credit in AP classes going into college. He was 6th in his class of 250, and his label was gifted with attention deficit. So you would have thought everything was looking up for this family. Actually, I have to tell you this, that all 3 of my children were in the gifted program. Can't leave any of them out. Okay, so, but there was another side of Brad. There was another side of Brad. He, in 5th grade, started medication. We tried several different kinds of medication. We did counseling. We gave him every opportunity. When Palm Pilots came out, we got him the Palm Pilot. Maybe that'll help him be organized. But he still had no social connections. No social connections. He had daily tears and meltdowns. Hygiene. His hygiene, if you notice the last picture, his face was a little broken out. Unless I told him every night, Brad, did you wash your face? In the shower. He probably just stood there in the shower, I don't know, but it didn't get washed unless I reminded him. Wash your face, brush your teeth, and he's a senior in high school who has a perfect score on his ACT. Things just didn't mesh up. So this is a story, it's not just me that noticed that. He worked at Papa Murphy's Pizza Place. If you know Papa Murphy's, it's a take and bake pizza place. So you just go in, there's not very much difference in what you do. Every task is just making these pizzas and sending them out. You don't even have to deal with people at tables or anything. But he stopped getting hours at Papa Murphy's. So I sent Brad in, Brad, find out why you're not getting hours. And the owner said he didn't make pizzas fast enough. So Brad went in on a special day, proved he could make pizzas fast enough, and from there on out, the manager gave Brad, his token 3 to 5 hours a week, knowing that we were a quality family, and he was just the charity case. So it wasn't just me, all the challenges. He wasn't surviving in the environment either. And then the final blow came his senior year when we pretended, okay, Brad, we're going to pretend like you're at college. You have everything you need to do well. And remember, he was 6th in his class as a senior in high school. Within 6 weeks, he was, he had 2 D's and an F. And that took me 10 years ago this month, in October, to the doctor's office in tears saying, isn't there anything else out there? And my doctor said, and I'm going to get in tears now, he said, well, there's this new thing, IM. So in December of Brad's senior year, he went through IM. Okay, so now we're going to go into some specifics. I'm going to talk about facial recognition. This is Brad when he was in preschool and when he in his confirmation class. We were in a very small school where really these same 25 students from here were the same 25 students 8 years later. So he had spent his entire childhood with the same students, but he tended to call everybody, hey you. He even called me hey you every now and then. So, but what really struck me as odd was when he was in middle school at some point, I asked him, hey Brad, who's that? And he said, I don't know. And so I thought, by that point we knew things were not, by that time he was on medication, so we knew things were not going well for him. But I thought it was his core deficit of his lack of attention. Socially, he didn't care about other people. Why would he attend to their names? He had language processing delays, so it was hard for him to get ideas out. Maybe he said, I don't know, because he couldn't find the words fast enough. So I attributed his lack of that facial recognition as being his core deficits. Even to the point when he came home after IM, as a college student, he one day said, you know what, Mom? I think as a child I didn't recognize faces. Might not be what you said, but that's how I remember it. I didn't recognize faces because I remember being in the mall and walking with you being afraid of being separated, because if we were separated, I'd have to tell the police officer what you looked like, and I couldn't tell you that. I remember being afraid of that. So I attributed his lack of facial recognition as these core deficits. This is where Brad's insight is so powerful for you. Just listen to his version of the same story.
So I've studied this in occupational therapy school, the difference of what is recognition. And I didn't have a problem with recognition. I could recognize faces, and I could see them when I saw them. But so I thought through what I know about how the brain works, and realized that it wasn't the recognition, but matching up bits of data. Because I would have people's faces in my mind, and I would have people's names in my mind, but when push came to shove, they wouldn't come together. But other things would come together, like first names and last names blended right together. To this day, I can still say Jamie Quiet Brown, Callie Simnett. Those are people in my class that I knew the first name, last name. They just go together. But getting their faces along with that didn't work. It was a disconnect of the mind. I called attribute assignment. So, with this disconnect, it makes for a lot of more problems beyond just being able to recognize someone. Because there's other bits of data I did not connect to people very well. One of those bits of information is who's a bully. Because it would take me a while to process, when I see someone's face, to process everything I know about them. And so when I was in 4th grade, there's a really bad bully around. And I remember frequently getting picked on in the bathroom. The teacher wasn't there. Classic bully pick-on spot. And I think to myself, why did I allow myself to get into the bathroom with the bully? Because it's not very big. You could see the people in there. So I just didn't recognize him as the bully immediately, which makes for even a bigger problem because that's the friend or foes. I see people out there and innately wouldn't recognize them as friend or foe. They were just people. And so every time I would walk up to someone and have an interaction with them, innately I wouldn't know what to expect. The summary I give of this is that it's like myself living in a schizophrenic world filled with schizophrenic people. Because whenever I run into someone, I don't know how they're going to treat me.
And that leads to?
And yes, then if you're dealing with people that you can't predict, then how are you supposed to maintain your own self-being and not have meltdowns? It just makes sense. Dealing with crazy people will make you crazy.
Yeah. So there you saw how my facial recognition, I thought it was a lack of facial recognition, but it was attribute assignment that was the issue, that was his challenge here. Okay, so now we're going to go to take out the trash. So this gives you another picture of Brad. You know, as you're raising your children, you want them to learn responsibilities. So third grade, I said, okay, Brad, we're going to give you a job if you take out the trash every day, okay? And that's your job. You know, by fifth grade, we're saying, Brad, if you forget to take out the trash, I might dock your allowance a little bit. By seventh grade, you know, we are sitting the trash can on his bed. By ninth grade, we're letting it overflow in the kitchen. He still never self-initiates taking out the trash. Actually, the word of the summer in ninth grade was initiation, where I just stepped back and asked him every night. We worked on that word. What's it mean to initiate? It means to look with your eyes and see what, it was at supper time, right after supper, see what's left on the table, what's left on the counter, to listen to people, and we just broke that word down and we worked on it the entire summer. Self-initiation, initiating how do you clean up after supper. He never got it. He did not self-initiate. Never. So, I also attributed that to his lack of attention. He just didn't notice it. Lack of awareness, frontal lobe dysfunction. But what was very fascinating was within a month or two after I'm sitting in the other room one day on the computer, and I hear something in the kitchen. Brad, what are you doing? Taking out the trash. I'm jumping up and down right now.
Just a month after.
A
month after I am, January-ish of my senior year of high school.
And I go in and I say, okay, Brad, I know last fall you would walk in this kitchen, see the trash you did taken out, and you'd walk right by that trash can. Now, you stopped and you picked it up. He'll talk to you now about what happened differently in his brain.
I always like metaphors to explain things, and so when I was trying to explain this idea of why I would just walk past, the metaphor I brought up with is everywhere I go is a tunnel. Everything I do are tunnels branching off that tunnel. I can travel down any one of them. Pre-IM, when I'd walk into the kitchen and up ahead, I could see my tunnel branching off into a little path to take out the trash and come back. But as I would get closer and closer, that opening, the branching off, would close up to nothing. So that when I got there, it wasn't even really an option to turn and take out the trash. I had to keep going down the path that I was going down, even if the path I was going down was doing nothing. Another way I like to think about this is like inertia. A big semi-truck moving through the kitchen. I can't I couldn't turn on a dime, stop, pick up the trash, and do that. The inertia just pushed me forward through what I was doing, even though what I was doing was nothing. And I knew that would be beneficial. I couldn't turn.
By the way, this is my granddaughter, June. Ruben had a slide that June needed a slide.
Not
Okay.
my kids.
Social skills. Okay, so to review that, I thought that he didn't attend or he didn't self-initiate, but in reality, when he voiced what was happening, why he didn't take out the trash, it had to do with cognitive flexibility. So I think that's why his insight, just to visit with him, would be very enlightening. Okay, so social skills. Brad was very socially disconnected, and I was like every mom, every parent. I sort of was in denial that, oh yeah, but he has some friends at school. He does some things, you know. But it was about 3rd, maybe 4th grade that I remember walking into school, waiting to pick the kids up after school, because it was a small school, so we drove ourselves. And standing in the hallway, and I see a poster, Signs of Spring. And there's a picture of Brad on it, reading his book. And the caption on it was, Sign of Spring. Brad is no longer wearing his gloves while reading his book at recess. And that was the moment, and I'm going to cry again, that was the moment that I could no longer be in denial that my son did not play with anybody at recess time, and his social connections were definitely significantly deficient. Okay, sorry about that. Brad.
So, as a counterpoint to this, so just to go with the timeline again, Interactive Metronome occurred December of my senior year of high school, so I had 1 semester after that, and then I had my open house. And I think this really explains how much I am opened up my social life, in that I made more friends in those 4 months than I did in the entire 4 years of high school. And just at my open house, I was sitting there with a couch full of people for 2-3 hours, just a kind of rotating group, having a conversation, enjoying each other's company. And before Interactive Metronome, I didn't see the social web. I kind of know now that there's a social web because I see its parody in movies, and I see kids doing their social web, but I don't remember seeing a social web. I know there was one. At lunch, I sat with people. After I sat with the people. Pre-IM, I walked to class with people around. Post-IM, I walked to class with people. That the social web, really, when I can tell that I first crystallized the social web and seeing it was my first event in college. I was in the marching band, and with the marching band, everyone comes into college early, about a week early, and the entire marching band, all 300 of us, are sitting around the halls waiting for everything to start. And I remember, it's one of the happiest points of my life, standing at one end of the hall, looking down, and being able to say, I can make a relationship with any person in this hall. That's something that was totally lost to me beforehand. And it was one of the happiest moments of my life.
Okay. Should we skip that one?
No.
Okay, no, we have time. Okay, so monologue versus dialogue. So this was a huge change for Brad. Pre-IM, Brad could talk a lot about what was happening in his own brain, and he would tell you about, you know, when he was a child, all the spaceships and all the aliens, but he was very unaware of his audience. He would just talk and talk and talk. He didn't care if you were bored. He didn't care. He didn't even know what you were thinking. So
also, I would tell the same joke over and over to the same audience.
Yeah, not understanding all the social implications. So post-IM, he had gone, a couple, 3 weeks. He was probably still at the end of IM, actually. In his senior year, his AP class had gone to Kansas University, which is about an hour away from us, to a biology presentation. And he came home from that day of school just ready to talk. And we sat down after school and had a conversation. And these moments in time cause me to cry, I'm sorry, because that was the first conversation I had with my son in his entire life. He's 17 years old, and we're sitting there and we're talking about first, world hunger, and it goes to AIDS, it goes to Africa, it goes to cultures, it's a heavy, deep, intellectual, back and forth conversation. So pre-IM was monologue alone, post-IM there was dialogue. So I think that's a wonderful thing to evaluate as you go through IM.
Yours.
Oh, I have to do this one. So now we're going to go through one more quality that Brad had. Brad always said, I don't know, when you'd ask him a question, what did you do at school today? I don't know. Did that medication help you? Did the new medication help you? I don't know. He was almost put out like, how do you expect me to know whether that medication helped me or not? It was almost like he was so disconnected with his own touch with himself that he was exasperated I would even ask him about himself. So I don't know was a word I learned to dislike as a parent, but I understand it from my IM kids nowadays. Tell us about that and how that's changed your life.
So this metacognition, I think, can be explained if you jump back into that bullying metaphor back there. Because I wasn't able to identify my own emotional levels. So figuring out the cause and effect of being bullied, because bullies pick on the crying kids. I was the crying kid. I cried up in through high school.
One of my worst parenting moments was when he was crying in high school. I won't share it.
It's a bad thing to cry in high school. But the problem, how this ties in with metacognition, is that I couldn't really see my emotional state other than what I was expressing. So I had as much knowledge about my emotions as the people watching me. There's no internal thoughts going through there. If I'm upset, I'm crying. And the frontal lobe can control this only if it knows about it. And so IM gave me the ability to see my own emotions before they get out and choose whether or not that's one to release or hold back, or whether I need to get out of a situation so this doesn't escalate. It allows me to rationally respond rather than emotionally respond. Which is just a wonderful thing. It's a good thing to be able to, I'm not going to make it in life without being able to control my emotions.
We are 3 minutes ahead. We are doing so well. So you get 3 minutes of questions. Okay, so we labeled this the joy and grief of IM.
That's the title.
That's the title of this presentation. Because as we went through our life together as a family, there was, of course there was joy, but there was also grief. Because Brad actually missed out on quite a lot of his childhood. And we have 2 quotes coming up that were his quotes shortly after he went through IM. But as a child, I just remember that he was the one that sat and did all of his schoolwork at the kitchen table after school. He didn't get to go out and play with the other kids because he had 3 hours of homework to do every night. And yes, he was successful in school, but he missed out on a lot of his childhood. So these are 2 of Brad's quotes. First I want to show you, this is a picture, I'll tell you this story too. This is a picture of his scrapbook when he was 6 years old, and I read a little story here about how, in the 80s, responsible parents didn't let their children play with guns, but by the time you were 6, we gave that up, because you just played with every single gun. So this is his childhood, and this is one of Brad's quotes. There was a boy with a childhood, but he is different than the man before you.
I'm different than my childhood. And I have to grieve the loss of my childhood because the person standing before you wasn't the same. But along with that grief, I have also gotten pride in myself and my accomplishments, being able to work together for a common goal. Mom?
Yeah. I have notes. Make sure you let the pictures speak. So I'm slowing it down. Go.
Enjoying life and being able to be silly when appropriate. Or to be able to sit down and do absolutely nothing. To feel the closeness of friends and family. And feel the most important connections of all. Really, in our confessional, as I've said before now, as I'm saying now, and I'm sure I'll say in the future, is like a rebirth of my mind. Thank you for listening to my story.
You have 3 minutes for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Perfect.
Okay, so
First off, any
you can write
questions?
out feedback.
I thought it was really, good.
Yeah, I just.
You might want to, and I think,
Okay,
don't
yeah,
worry about
please.
your personal things, I think that part was great. You might want to explain a definition of like metacognition.
I thought about that
A few
when
of
you
those,
said
how you
metacognition.
define it, because how you define it is a little different than I would, but,
Okay.
but it's perfect, use whatever you want, but
Right.
explain it, that this is how we see it.
And when you were saying that, I was thinking we really should have said something about what is metacognition. So it's good that you said that because
Yeah, I was thinking, because I have no idea what it is.
I haven't either. I was going to ask you what,
So, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if your whole audience is going to know that
Not the
automatically.
whole
not
audience.
the whole audience,
Yeah,
but
so-
some of
Probably,
them will.
probably a good 40 to 70%.
Yeah.
And we had
But-
time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I would do.
Um,
But I think, the pictures and, tell your personal story however you want to tell it.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
that's
so
very
that's the
important.
goal.
Well,
I-
yes, that don't be
I
af-
teared
don't
up
be
a couple
afraid.
times.
That's
I
okay.
teared up a couple times. It's okay with me. I felt like I apologized too many times for tearing up.
No.
It was okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, when,
Just take a
when
box of
someone
Kleenex
tears
with you
up,
when you go
I know.
out.
I went and got a Kleenex.
when someone tears up, they apologize. That,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually helpful to apologize, particularly in a big room, because then that clarifies
Yeah,
what
for those who
what
don't
you're
know
actually
what-
doing, rather than
Right.
for the people in the back who can't tell as well,
Yeah.
can't read your emotions as well.
The one part when you were talking about, when you were walking to class with people, maybe say, I'd walk by people, but now I was with people.
By
Both
with.
of those you use with on both
Okay.
of them.
Yeah.
Change that first part to be I sat next to him at lunch.
Yeah.
Now I was with them at lunch.
Yeah, you emphasized it well,
Yes,
so.
but maybe even just using
Yes.
a more
Yeah.
simple physical term versus a connected
Okay.
term.
Very good.
But that's about the only one.
You said playing with guns. Maybe I'll say toy guns.
Okay.
I mean, there's some
Right.
people
He
that.
made,
And
right.
we are coming from Kansas.
Yes.
This is a national conference. There
This
are
is
some
Texas,
there are
we're
some
going right.
stereotypes.
Yeah.
Well, you see the
And-
pictures in the paper, like
and
the kids
actually-
got their turkey. I mean, these guys look like they're.
Actually, that story is not in the presentation. I just only had 3 minutes left, so I thought I would add it.
Uh-huh.
Do you think I could?
I personally didn't really think that needed to be in there about
Yeah,
the
that
fence at all.
doesn't need to be in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'll
Yeah.
try to remember to leave that
I
off. That's not actually officially in
Right.
it. I just tried to.
If, as I look at the handout and I look at the last column, pride, the teamwork, the fun, you had the slides to go with it. But I didn't hear as much explanation as I see here. I don't know if that made sense. Maybe I was busy thinking. But I think you could expand just a little bit.
If we have 3 minutes
Okay,
left.
what I was wanting for that, I
I think it's flowed better in the past.
I was wanting not that pause.
Yeah.
I did not
Oh.
like that pause. I wanted it to go boom, boom. As I
Okay.
finished one phrase, flow into
Can
the
you
next.
make then a last slide with all those neat pictures in it? So because your mom's right. We want to look at those pictures. They do tell a lot.
And
so
not just
if
because
you
we know
boom,
your
boom,
family.
boomed it quickly like you did, and then have
Yeah.
a last one that's just on the screen while you're still kind of finishing up, we can then process some of those